Tropical diseases, NTDs, are a diverse group of more than 20 conditions and diseases that are mainly prevalent in tropical areas, where they mostly affect impoverished communities and disproportionately affect women and children.
Ces maladies ont des conséquences sanitaires, sociales et économiques dévastatrices pour plus d'1 milliard de personnes. Unissons-nous, agissons et éliminons les maladies tropicales négligées.
variant céphalique, la rage, nomade. Investissons, ouvrons les battes, ouvrons les battes.
C'est la change des villes, les enfants vont à l'école.
Nous avons besoin de vous, décideurs mondiaux.
Supprimer la peur des adultes qui vont travailler.
Ending cycles of poverty.
You have the power, the means. We need your political will.
Win-win for everyone.
We can do it, we can end neglected tropical disease.
Win-win for Africa.
Unite, act, and eliminate. Unite, act, and eliminate.
Ngatibatanei tishande pamwe chete kudzivirira elephantiasis.
Naomba tuungane, tutekeleze, tutokomeze magonjwa ambayo hayapewi kipaumbele.
Let's unite, act and eliminate NTDs.
Ngatibatani tishande pamwe chete kudzivirira ma-NTD.
That are mainly prevalent in tropical areas, where they mostly affect impoverished communities and disproportionately affect women and children.
Ces maladies ont des conséquences sanitaires, sociales et économiques dévastatrices pour plus d'1 milliard de personnes. Unissons-nous, agissons et éliminons les maladies tropicales négligées. Ces maladies ont des conséquences sanitaires, sociales et économiques dévastatrices pour plus d'1 milliard de personnes. Unissons-nous,
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this session. It's supposed to be a lunch session, but unfortunately you can't have your lunch in here, which means you have two choices. You have eaten quickly and you're here, or you're missing lunch. Nonetheless, if even you're missing lunch, I can assure you you've made a good choice. Lunch will always be there, but this session is once. And with that, thank you very much for joining us, including those of you joining us online. We're excited to have you. For this session, we're going to explore how research and development, coupled with timely interventions and cross-sector partnerships, are driving the elimination of neglected tropical diseases. I cannot overemphasize the importance of collaboration, and I must further emphasize the role that local ownership plays in turning scientific research into real-world impact, that which would take us towards achieving the 2030 goals. I must, at this juncture, really acknowledge the role that Rwanda has played as a leader in pushing us towards the 2030 goals, particularly in spearheading the Kigali Declaration on NTDs. And with that, I would like to welcome the Minister of Health of Rwanda, but he isn't here yet, but he'll be very soon with us. And as soon as he comes in, he will give his speech. Nonetheless, I would like to welcome you to this high-level lunch session, as I mentioned before. And I'm very pleased to see that you're bringing your expertise from government, research, and policy industry, and communities which are affected by NTDs. As we gather today, we do so not only to reflect on how far we have come, but to ask, what more can we do to turn research into impact and into commitments and meaningful, lasting change? With NTDs affecting still over 1 billion people worldwide, the momentum for elimination is now even stronger than ever. To date, we have 56 countries successfully having eliminated at least one NTD. And this is significant progress towards WHO's global target of 100 countries reaching elimination by 2030. Thanks to advances in science and increased political will and crossover collaboration, we've reached a pivotal moment. From groundbreaking clinical trials and improved diagnostics to historic declarations and expanded access to treatment, we are moving even closer to reaching our shared goals. So this session is about celebrating that progress, but also looking forward. We'll hear from policymakers, scientists, frontline workers, and advocates who are working tirelessly to ensure that no one is left behind in this effort. And there is no better place for this conversation than right here in Kigali. If you follow the Kigali Declaration, which I made mention of earlier, which was launched in 2022, I believe in this very place, it was a landmark moment for country leadership in health. And since then, the declaration has helped to mobilize over $1.8 billion in commitments inspired peer countries and brought visibility and accountability to national programs. We are once again deeply grateful to the government of Rwanda for their continued leadership and for hosting this important session as part of the NTD Forum. And with this, I'd like to welcome you to watch a video which tells you where we've come from, how far we have come, and it really shows how we need to continue with the momentum we've gathered with strong country ownership and increased investment in R&D for NTDs.
More than 1 billion people suffer from neglected tropical diseases globally. These diseases hit the world's most vulnerable populations the hardest, causing immense suffering, lifelong disabilities, and tragically, even death.
These diseases persist because existing tools are insufficient, outdated, or under-implemented. We need research to develop better interventions, understand the system gaps, and to identify delivery models for local health systems. Africa has 17% of the world's population and yet bears 40% of the NTD burden, highlighting the need for context-relevant research within African health settings.
I'm a survivor of Kalasa. At home, they could not identify it as Kalasa because my mother would take me to abolist and they go and cut me. They go and cut around my stomach.
These are all challenges. First of all, accessing the facilities, the diagnostics, and they have to receive treatments which are long, expensive and toxic.
But there's hope. Over the last 20 years, we've witnessed remarkable progress in the fight against neglected tropical diseases. This success rests on a foundation of global and national commitment, partnerships, research and innovation, strong political will, and tireless advocacy. Thanks to these global efforts, we're seeing real progress. 56 countries have now eliminated at least one neglected disease, and in 2023 alone, 900 million people benefited from existing treatments. Through dedicated research and innovation, we have also developed new tools for patients affected by neglected diseases. This includes novel treatments where none existed before, or where drugs were ineffective.
Ces maladies sont dites négligées parce qu'il y a peu de ressources affectées à leur recherche. La recherche et le développement est une composante importante pour lutter contre les maladies tropicales négligées et surtout la recherche et le développement est la condition sine qua non pour arriver à l'élimination des maladies tropicales négligées.
We have a clear action plan. Together, we have reached more than 2.4 billion people, including the...
3 years ago, the Kigali Declaration on Neglected Tropical Diseases was launched. Thanks to the declaration, we've seen an unprecedented mobilization of political will, community commitment, and vital resources. This collective action is bringing us closer to ending the neglect of neglected tropical diseases once and for all. Although we have come a long way, we cannot stop there. We have to continue investing in efforts against neglected tropical diseases to sustain the milestones and move towards the last mile of elimination once and for all.
It's not a one-man's job. It's us coming together. So the ministries of health have to be involved. The partners, the stakeholders, the communities, research and development and innovation has to continue. And you can see the spirit, the willingness of working together. So I think I see light at the end of the tunnel.
Wonderful to listen to the voices from the community, from policymakers, and from researchers. Really inspiring video, just showing the importance of what we all do, how far we've come, and yet still showing that there's much more to be done. Now, what you watched was on video, but thankfully you're going to have it live. And with that, I'd like to invite speakers who will span researchers, policymakers, and the community. I'd like to kindly invite Dr. Omar Diohe-Ba. He's going to be speaking to us. I'd like to also invite Dr. Michael Makanga to also join us on stage. Then I'd like to invite Kasha Yurchak to also join us. And Samuel Kariuki, please join us. And Dr. Aissatou Toure and Priscilla Chebjira. Can we welcome our speakers? So by video, our first keynote will bring us a powerful country perspective on how research has supported national leadership in achieving disease elimination. This is going to be by video, and I'd like us to welcome the presentation via video of Dr. Oumar Diouhe Ba, the Minister of Health of Guinea, who will be speaking to us.
Excellences, Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs, en vos rangs, grade, qualité, tout protocole observé, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est un honneur pour moi de prendre la parole à l'occasion du Forum du partenariat pour les essais cliniques entre l'Europe et les pays en développement. Permettez-moi tout d'abord de vous transmettre des salutations chaleureuses, fraternelles et cordiales du président de la République de Guinée, son Excellence général Mamadi Doumbouya, et de remercier les autorités rwandaises ainsi que les organisateurs de cette session pour avoir offert une plateforme permettant de porter nos réflexions non seulement sur les progrès accomplis, mais aussi sur la transformation opérée. Mesdames et Messieurs, pendant des décennies, la maladie du sommeil ou trypanosomiase humaine africaine a été une réalité dévastatrice en Guinée. Elle a arraché à nos familles leurs proches, à nos communautés leur main-d'œuvre, à notre pays sa santé et sa productivité. À son apogée, la maladie du sommeil était considérée comme une sentence de mort dans certaines régions de notre pays. Mais aujourd'hui, je suis fier de dire que cette réalité a changé. En janvier 2025, l'Organisation mondiale de la santé a annoncé que la République de Guinée a éliminé la maladie du sommeil comme problème de santé publique. Et à l'ouverture de l'Assemblée mondiale de la santé qui s'est tenue à Genève au mois de mai dernier, j'ai solennellement reçu, au nom de la République de Guinée, l'attestation de cette élimination. Ce succès est le fruit d'une collaboration étroite entre les autorités guinéennes, les chercheurs, les organisations internationales et les communautés locales. Mesdames et Messieurs, l'élimination de la maladie du sommeil en Guinée n'est pas un miracle. C'est le résultat de plusieurs années d'investissement dans la recherche, d'une volonté politique forte, d'une collaboration étroite entre les partenaires. Grâce à ces collaborations, de longue date, avec des organisations clés telles que DNDi, nous avons pu faire avancer l'innovation en matière de recherche au service des patients pour qu'ils reçoivent des traitements abordables, accessibles et surtout sûrs. Les recherches et essais cliniques soutenus par ce partenariat ont été essentiels pour développer des outils diagnostiques plus sûrs et plus simples, ainsi que des traitements plus courts et plus efficaces comme le flexidilazole et l'acosiborol. Ces innovations ont permis aux agents de santé de détecter et de traiter les patients dans des communautés éloignées avant que la maladie ne progresse. Mais les outils seuls ne suffisent pas. Notre succès a été rendu possible grâce à l'engagement national de la Guinée, reposant sur la mise en œuvre d'une stratégie innovante combinant le contrôle des vecteurs, les campagnes de dépistage, les systèmes de surveillance robustes, l'intégration de la maladie du sommeil dans notre stratégie de soins de santé primaire et la mobilisation des agents de santé locaux, des chercheurs et des communautés. Ces efforts ont été appuyés par l'initiative Médicaments pour les maladies négligées qui a contribué à améliorer l'accès à des traitements complexes et à identifier de nouvelles solutions thérapeutiques aux côtés d'autres partenaires tels que l'IRD, l'Institut Pasteur, l'OMS et d'autres encore. Nous avons également beaucoup bénéficié de la coopération Sud-Sud en partageant nos expériences et approches avec les pays voisins confrontés aux mêmes défis. Et maintenant, si nous célébrons cette étape importante, notre parcours ne s'arrête pas là. Maintenir l'élimination exige la vigilance, une surveillance continue, l'engagement communautaire et des investissements soutenus dans la recherche pour faire face aux risques résiduels de transmission. Nous devons rester proactifs et réactifs face aux nouvelles menaces sanitaires et aux défis en évolution. Mesdames et Messieurs, l'histoire de la République de Guinée démontre ce qui est possible lorsque la recherche rencontre la réalité, lorsque la science se traduit en actions concrètes et lorsque les pays prennent eux-mêmes les rênes de leur processus d'élimination. Nous sommes fiers de ce que nous avons accompli et nous restons engagés à soutenir les autres nations qui sont encore en chemin. Je vous remercie pour votre attention et pour votre engagement continu à faire de la maladie du sommeil et de toutes les maladies tropicales négligées un mal du passé.
Grand merci et félicitations.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to Honorable Minister Dioba, Minister of Health and Public Hygiene of Guinea.
See the pride in his eyes and could sense that sense of ownership in his voice. And it does show that when partnerships are forged in the right way, there is country ownership, and ultimately there is the success and the impact that we all desire. Congratulations to all. And once again, I'd like to reiterate our thanks and deep gratitude to the government of Rwanda, as I said before, for their continued leadership, and also for hosting this very important session as part of the EDCTP Forum. And I am really glad to invite to the stage now someone who's been central to Rwanda's health achievements and who is also a powerful champion for progress. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Sabin Nsanzimana, Honorable Minister of Health of the Republic of Rwanda. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Your Excellencies, colleagues, friends, again, I have to be back. Yesterday was an interesting evening, especially the last part of the day, when we were celebrating life, but also our friendship. So I joined this session on the invitation of the organizers. I want also to appreciate the work you're doing, mostly distinguished panelists here. Recognize the former Vice President of the Gambia, with whom we've been discussing a lot about how we can end NTDs. Professor Michael shared very important data yesterday. So I'm actually learning a lot. But for NTDs, I'll probably mention a few things that it's kind of reflections. I'm not an expert in this field, but sometimes you bring other perspective other than those who are always into this area may be helpful. The first question I asked myself, looking into having worked close to NTDs and what we can do about it, there are two questions. Number one is, why do we neglect tropical diseases? And why we should even keep calling it neglected? Probably we should say these are important, these are priority diseases to deal with, not neglect. For this term itself sounds like we are calling for neglecting them. So how do we twist that? I may be wrong, but sometimes the names and the calling can shape something. Can we call these important diseases to deal with because they matter, because they affect people's lives, children, mothers in particular, those in communities with little means, with limited access to water, limited access to basic needs, actually very close to poverty levels. Actually, we should invest there as a priority, not as a secondary area for investment. So that was the first reflection. As far as the prioritization is concerned, and I believe the call for action should be prioritize these tropical diseases because they affect the people we should be supporting the most. They need us the most. It's about equity. It's about giving what we have and share with the most in need. Number two is, can we end these diseases? I believe it's possible. It's possible. We've seen programs that have successfully achieved to the end of NTDs. And if it has worked somewhere, it can work somewhere else. So ending NTD is possible. It's not a dream. It's just a decision we can make. And it shouldn't be delegated to the future. And who is going to end NTDs? If it's not us, the people in charge, the front runners, the front leaders, if it's not you, us, there's no one else who is going to do it. And we should not just commit, we should also do it. Also look into what are the most successful interventions to end diseases. If you look across programs, in my past career before being a politician in health, I had the chance to work in many programs, HIV, TB, malaria, and others. But something I learned is that for every single program and disease control, there's always the top 3 interventions that will drive 80% of the results. There's always top 3 interventions. If you go to HIV, you find ART, you will find condom, you will find maybe other biomedical circumcision. If you go to malaria, the same. We find IRS, mosquito nets, and treatment. For NTDs, we need to focus on the top 3. And the top 3 will come from the experts, not me. But what I got from my team is that there's wash is important. Water, sanitation, and hygiene is important. A drug administration, massive drug administration is important. And also the community-led programs are important. We need to engage our community health workers to detect and to manage low-cost interventions instead of waiting when too expensive at facility level, and more. But at least if the top 3 I'm reflecting about are useful, I will learn from and I stand to be corrected. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to again thank you for joining us in this week, Intense Science, and you have our support, at least from the policy-making levels, but also we need to be backed by science and evidence. That's what we get from you and from others who are following us online. So thank you. Those are my few reflections, and I wish that soon we'll be ending NTDs.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Dr. Sabin Nsanzimana, Minister of Health of the Republic of Rwanda, we appreciate you. Thank you very much. And once again, your leadership in pushing forward the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll turn now to the question of how research funding and scientific innovation can support health systems and frontline impact. None other to speak to us about this than Dr. Michael Makanga, who is the Executive Director of Global Health, EDCTP 3.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, dear colleagues and friends. Good afternoon. It is an absolute pleasure to be with you here in Kigali, where in the spirit of partnership and progress, continue to guide the global movement to end neglected tropical diseases. At EDCTP, we believe in investing in neglected tropical diseases, and this is not only the right thing to do, but a highly effective way to strengthen health systems, to reduce inequality, and to build resilience across Africa. We believe in the power of research and innovation, and over the last 20 years, EDCTP has supported more than 70 neglected tropical diseases related projects, delivering advances in diagnostics, treatments, and implementation science. These breakthroughs have saved lives and improved the way neglected tropical diseases are detected, treated, and managed within African health systems. But we know that this progress must continue. That is why I'm proud to share that this year we have launched another call of 46 million euros towards neglected tropical diseases under the Global Health EDCTP 3. This new investment will drive forward clinical trials and implementation research to support elimination goals, and with strong focus on country priorities and sustainable impact. We also believe in African leadership and in making sure that we implement the Kigali Declaration. We recognize that sustainable progress is only possible when African countries lead the way. EDCTP has championed African scientific leadership and health sovereignty. This commitment is reflected in our strong partnership with ministries of health, with local research institutions, and with the affected communities. Earlier this year, on the World National Neglected Tropical Diseases Day, we were proud to sign the Kigali Declaration on NTDs, reinforcing our shared commitment to eliminating neglected tropical diseases through integrated, people-centered approaches, and we are honored to stand alongside national governments and global partners as we move forward from commitment to action. And while timely interventions matter, we cannot afford to wait. Neglected tropical diseases thrive in absence of timely diagnosis, treatment, and in absence of data. Delays in access can lead to long-term disability, economic loss, and missed opportunities for prevention. This is why EDCTP's funding supports not only innovation, but speed from lab to patient, and from research to rolling out these interventions. Timely intervention is the difference between progress and persistence. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Michael Makanga, Executive Director of Global Health EDCTP 3, for really bringing to the fore the power of innovation for R&D and how commitment can be turned into palpable action that gives us the outputs and the results that we desire. And with that, we do recognize that collaboration across regions is critical to sustaining progress. Our next speaker represents the European Commission's commitment to partnership and impact. And with that, I'd like to welcome Kasia Jurczak from the European Support and North-South partnerships perspective, she will bring us some insights. She's from the DG Research and Innovation of the EU. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an immense pleasure to be here with you today. And I have to say, always speaking after Michael Makanga leaves me a little bit uncertain because he's an excellent leader and he presents really the crown in the jewel that we have for European-African Partnership on Research, which is EDCTP, for which we are here this week. So let me bring you 3 different broader points, which would be our policy framework, a bit about funding, but also the importance of a global perspective beyond the Europe and African dimension. So when it comes to policy, of course, we have the mother of all policies at the European side, the EU Global Health Strategy, which is an external dimension of our EU internal health policy. And there we bring together a wide basket of tools, the Global Gateway investment, the humanitarian aid, which also channels necessary funding for health interventions in difficult to reach settings, but also the research, health research. And with my research hat on, I'd like to zoom in on the EU Innovation Agenda, which is a policy process that was established in 2023, linking the AU and EU in 4 areas where public health was identified as one of the priorities. And it looks at translating research and innovation into health products, and we are here at the session supported by the NDI, so it is about health products, but also services, and emphasizing how this creates job opportunities in Africa. And in that process, we jointly agree research agendas, promote technology transfers and capacity building, and prevention of future health threats. And if you are interested more to learn about the EU Innovation Agenda, there will be a session devoted to that today at 5 p.m. at the forum. So when we speak about research, we really have to think about the whole innovation ecosystem and development end-to-end. So support to entire process, bringing innovative products to citizens in Africa from end to end. So development, supporting your clinical research, supporting the regulatory capacity, and the minister mentioned yesterday the establishment of AMA here in Kigali and it becoming operational. And earlier today we also learned about your investment in clinical research ecosystems, okay, also with support from EDCTP, but more broadly. And Michael has given an African perspective, so you can ask me what's in it also for Europe. With the climate change, the importance of addressing infectious diseases, it's really a global issue. We have seen the reemergence of so-called tropical diseases in Europe, and you have asked me to speak about European research in Africa NTD future. I would like to really turn it around and say, well, it's equally about Africans' research and Europe's future of addressing infectious diseases. So we bring funding to the table, not alone, but also with global partners through GLOPIDAR and our European partnerships between the Commission and the Member States on pandemic preparedness, rare diseases, clinical research, capacity building. And I think we have a lot to learn also from people in product development partnerships, how you really capture the need to bring resources from public, philanthropic, and private settings. And I would like to encourage you for when you go back home, to speak about many success stories we hear here, to encourage the policymakers, whether in Europe or in other countries, to keep on funding neglected tropical diseases and make it a priority in the future budget in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kasia Jurczak, for bringing to us the importance of this collaboration, and particularly on the EU's innovation agenda, and really demonstrating the importance of collaboration and how this impacts on economies, not only in Africa, but also in Europe, particularly considering the fact that these diseases do not only threaten Africa, but also in other parts of Europe. We are seeing this resurgence. So really it's a win-win certainly a very powerful investment. And the word innovation has shown through almost all the presentations and submissions we've had so far. And it really remains the key to simplifying diagnosis and treatment for NTDs. I'd like to welcome Professor Samuel Kariuki of DNDi to speak to us on accelerating progress through innovation.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, allow me to really thank the government of Rwanda through the minister, Dr. Sabin here, and also EDCTP for hosting this very, very important forum. We acknowledge, of course, that these successes that we are celebrating today have come through various forms of collaborations. No one organization could have done it alone, and that shows the power of working together. And I will give an example here. The recent elimination of sleeping sickness in Guinea that we had from the video that we watched here tells us a story about working in collaboration with communities, policymakers, ministries of health, research organizations, international partners, and the private sector to be able to achieve a key goal to drive away neglected disease among the neglected populations, especially in endemic settings in Africa. Recently at DNDi, we witnessed the signing at the World Health Assembly, an MOU by 6 African countries to be able to eliminate visceral leishmaniasis as another example of the power of collaborations. We value partnerships at DNDi, and we cannot achieve anything without the partners we work with. And a year ago, we signed an MOU with the African Union to reinforce the continental approach towards the elimination of some of the most devastating NTDs that we witness. For the last 23 years since DNDi was founded, we worked with many partners in industry, with partners in academia, and in R&D to be able to develop 13 field-adapted and affordable treatments. Among these 13 treatments, 9 of them were actually developed here in Africa with partners. And these have gone to treat 6 most deadly diseases that affect the most of the poorest in Africa. One of the most remarkable achievements at DNDi has been the development of fexinidazole. This is an oral treatment for sleeping sickness. Again, a game changer when it comes to dealing with elimination of sleeping sickness on our continent. We've made significant strides in improving treatment also for visceral leishmaniasis, another devastating disease among poor populations, reducing the duration of injections from 30 days to just 17 days. And this means that patients spend less time in hospital and become more productive in their communities. And for sleeping sickness, we have ongoing studies in clinical trials where we'll use single-dose oral drug treatment to simplify treatment even further, so that we bring treatment closer to the communities where we need these treatments. These are advances that help us to achieve the last mile in elimination of NTDs. And together, despite these advances, there needs to be growing commitment of country governments to provide priorities for elimination of NTDs, starting, of course, with the Kigali Declaration in 2022. And the last few years have witnessed deprioritization of financial investments. And we call upon all key stakeholders to be able to come together and do more research, especially towards accelerating elimination. Because without continued investment in these areas, we risk losing the momentum that has been gained in the past decades. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Kariuki. Indeed, from the fixed-dose combination of artesunate-diaquine to fluornithine, flexinidazole, now coziborol, the innovation that has been spearheaded by DNDi has certainly made a big difference to the NTD world. And thank you for that call once again, that we continue along this pathway of scientific innovation. We've heard from researchers, we've heard from policymakers, from bureaucrats, and we've heard from the ministers of health of Guinea and of Rwanda. And I'm especially honored to welcome Dr. Aissatou Toure, who's the former Vice President of the Gambia and now the Executive Director of Uniting the Combat NTDs, and she will speak on the transformational impact of the Kigali Declaration.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Honorable Minister of Health of Rwanda, Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, partners, those online, and friends. All protocols respectfully observed. It is a privilege to be here with you today in Kigali, a city that stands as a powerful symbol of progress and commitment in global health. I would like to thank the government of Rwanda for its continued leadership and warm hospitality, and to acknowledge the insightful contributions from the speakers who came before me. I also extend my gratitude to EDCTP and our hosts for organizing this important session at such a critical moment in the fight against neglected tropical diseases. We gather here today in a country that has shown what bold, visionary leadership looks like. Rwanda played a defining role in the creation of the Kigali Declaration on NTD, which was launched at the Kigali Summit on Malaria and NTDs in June 2022, alongside the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. This declaration, officially announced by His Excellency President Paul Kagame, marked a historical moment for African leadership in global health. It represented a shift from making commitments on behalf of affected communities to commitments led by them, shaped by their priorities and realities. Since its launch, the Kigali Declaration has mobilized over $1.8 billion in financial commitments and more than 28 billion units of donated medicines. Endorsements have grown from 57 to 84 partners, including 15 endemic countries, with Sudan the most recent to endorse. This groundswell of support reflects a growing movement led by countries, supported by partners, and driven by the communities most affected. The declaration has helped raise the visibility of NTDs program within national governments. It has strengthened internal advocacy, encouraged the use of tools such as the Kigali Declaration Commitment Tracker, and reinforced country alignment with the World Health Organization NTD roadmap and its 2030 targets. By generating political will and community engagement, the Kigali Declaration has become more than a pledge. It is a foundation for action and a driver of equity, dignity, and development. However, commitments must be matched with action. Research and innovation are central to achieving the elimination of NTDs. We need better diagnostics, simpler treatments, and smarter delivery mechanisms to ensure no one is left behind. EDCTP has demonstrated real leadership by focusing its funding where it is needed most. The recent launch of a 46 million euro fund dedicated to NTD research is a significant and timely investment. We also warmly welcome EDCTP's endorsement of the Kigali Declaration earlier this year, which underscores their commitment to African-led health solutions and global equity. As we look to the future, let us hold onto the spirit of Kigali, a spirit of solidarity, courage, and shared responsibility. Let us continue to center the voices of those most affected. Let us turn research into results and declarations into meaningful, lasting change. The Kigali Declaration is not the end of the journey. It is a catalyst for progress. In the current financial landscape that we find ourselves, the importance of continued funding is essential. We have seen today the impact of this investment has had. Let us make sure it continues. And with continued leadership, collaboration, and investment, I believe we will succeed. I thank you for giving me your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Toure, for reminding us of this powerful declaration and the impact that it has made, the commitments that have been made, and the action that has followed. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw a quick, almost, an unexpected recovery in the gains that we had made in the NTD space, just showing the resilience of the infrastructure that has been built to combat NTDs. Now, I'm very happy to have the opportunity to invite a frontliner, someone who's right there delivering care and service to those who suffer from these neglected tropical diseases. I'd like to welcome Priscilla Chepjira, who's the nurse in charge of the Kalazar ward at the Amudat Hospital in Uganda, to bring us a voice from the front lines.
Thank you so much, moderator, for giving me the opportunity to speak. As said, I'm Chepchira Priscilla, the nurse in charge, Kalaza Ward, Amudat Hospital, Uganda. Amudat Hospital is in Karamoja, a remote and semi-arid region in the northeastern part of Uganda, bordering Kenya. Our facility serves not just Ugandan communities, but also cross-border populations from the Kenyas Pokot and Turkana regions. I'll speak about my experience with Kalasa patients, but I know this will also be applied to other neglected tropical diseases. Most of the patients affected by Kalasa are pastoralist communities who frequently move with their livestock. These are some of the most marginalized populations in the country, often cut off from education, clean water, and health care. Most of our patients are children and youth under 18 years of age, people already vulnerable, living in extreme poverty. The patients come in when they are very sick and weak. This is attributed to, one, lack of knowledge of the health workers in non-VL treatment centers on diagnosis of visceral leishmaniasis, and lack of knowledge of the communities on the signs and symptoms of visceral leishmaniasis or Kalasa. Then, long distances. It's estimated that only 17% of the population live within a 5-kilometer radius to the health facility, and 83% live far away beyond 5-kilometer radius from the health facility. We have only 4 treatment centers for Kalasa out of 126 health facilities in Karamoja. Through research, we have transitioned from Saturday SSG injections to a combination of SSG and paramycin for 17 days. This combination has a shorter duration of treatment compared to the SSG, which is toxic. The patient has to stay for a few number of days in the hospital. So, despite progress, we still have challenges. Stock out of drugs and other supplies. 2, treatment can be painful and toxic. The 2 injections are difficult, especially for children. They cry a lot. Actually, when you pass around the ward during early morning time, that's when we give VL treatment. You will hear the children cry a lot. Then the patients stay long in the hospital for more than 2 weeks, disrupting their livelihood. In order to eliminate Kalasa, we still need better diagnostic tests which detect visceral leishmaniasis antigens. This can be used for the relapses also in order to avoid invasive and dangerous splenic or bone marrow aspirations. We need also safe, effective, accessible, and easier treatments, for example, oral treatments. We need to strengthen community mobilization. This is where the community mobilizer goes to the villages, helps educates the people, it tests the suspected cases, and then transports the positive cases to the field treatment center. In summary, eliminating Kalasa and other neglected tropical diseases needs a holistic strategy. It involves the communities, health workers like me, partners, and the political leaders. Thank you so much for listening.
What a powerful voice from the field, from the front line, Priscilla Chepchira, right at the border of Uganda and Kenya, the Kalaza ward at the Amudat Hospital. Thank you so much. One thing she said that struck me was the sound of children screaming in pain in the mornings when being treated. It reminds me of back in the day going for malaria injections at my local clinic, and I used to really dislike the nurse. The funny thing is that she used to attend the same church as we did, and I'd see her in church and wonder how such wickedness could be perpetuated upon me with these injections at my buttocks. Nonetheless, I'm hopeful, Priscilla, that soon you will not be known as the wicked nurse in Amudat, but hopefully we have an oral treatment for Kalaza, and they'll be smiling and happy to have you each morning, right? Well, I'm going to take my seat now, and I'm going to engage the panel in a couple of questions. But as I take my seat, I'll ask the very first question to you, Priscilla, and then I'll take my seat and ask a couple of questions to the panel, and maybe invite you also to share some questions. And the question I have is, you mentioned that you're located at the border between Uganda and Kenya. I think your location in itself serves as a powerful reminder of how these diseases know no borders. How do you deal with people coming from Uganda, people coming from Kenya? Because these drugs are supplied via a program, which is a Uganda national program. So how do you balance being, fair and objective and really providing care to those who need it, irrespective of nationality? Pardon me if it's sensitive, but it's important. Can you comment on this?
Thank you so much, moderator, for that question. We have patients from the cross-border, as I said earlier. So these patients come and graze their animals in Uganda. That is where our community mobilizer finds them. And then he tests the suspected cases and brings them to the hospital.
Thank you very much.
I'll try again. Or maybe I'll go to the podium. All right. So thank you very much for that, Priscilla. So for you, it's about caring for those who come, irrespective of nationality. Once there's a need, you meet it. And thank you very much for that. I'd like to just come to you, Professor Kariuki. You did mention innovation, and we've seen the impact that DNDi has made over the years in bringing new products to the market in partnership with several others. How have you managed over the years to balance your work amongst ministries of health, various donors and partners, because you span advocacy through to really deep, cutting-edge R&D. And if you can zone in on how you deal with the disappointment of molecules that don't make it to a drug.
Very important question. I hope I can be heard from here. Yeah, so it's such an important thing to be able to foster sustainable solutions for Africa. Because without leadership in Africa, then we always think about others bringing us the solutions, yet we are the center stage of where these diseases are endemic. So we have gone ahead to engage as much as possible ministries of health who are key stakeholders in elimination of NTDs, that they must own this process. We just focus on partnering with them to be able to get to that point when they can be able to eliminate these diseases through tools that we together develop. At the same time, communities as well must own up this process themselves and find out that, yes, we can work together with the communities and ministries of health to look at this as a common problem that we can be able to deal with using the tools that are available. Ours as well is, of course, committing to working together and, of course, fostering that relationship with funders and donors, and thanks to EDCTP for coming in very, very handy to be able to fund these processes. We know that's not sustainable in the end because our own governments must own this and be able to put in domestic funding to make this a sustainable solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kariuki. I'd like to come to you, Dr. Toure, particularly because of the experience you've had as the former vice president of the Gambia and now leading Uniting. You've had the opportunity to sit and listen to people talk and make a case for NTDs and funding and all that. You spoke about the Kigali Declaration. Now, taking a step back from where you were before, how would you advise that advocacy is played out on the continent to ensure that there is increased national and local commitment of funding to address NTDs?
Thank you very much. I would like to say that advocacy is very central in this because there is a guiding document that actually sets the context of dealing with NTDs, and that's the Kigali Declaration. And that is that commitment is coming from very high political spheres. That is the presidents or the ministers who are responsible for ensuring that that political commitment comes in. And the political will is very key in strengthening healthcare on the continent. So by signing first, the advocacy should center on getting all the heads of states of the African continent to sign the Kigali Declaration, to show the political will that is necessary. Then you have that document as the framework on which the healthcare system can be strengthened. It is also very important that the healthcare system pays attention to that and ensure that they advocate at different levels because NTDs are neglected because maybe the ministries of health are seeing it as a last on their list. And this is what we have noted. So if it is brought right at the top of the agenda, then it is equally treated like all other diseases because it has ramifications for the social capital of Africa and the population. And therefore, the political will is important by committing resources, and that is, we should start thinking of mobilizing or coming into domestic resource mobilization, where our governments will try as much as possible to say, we are dedicating this amount of funds towards that, working with partners, and that's where it is very important. And I believe that dealing with NTDs, that could be a catalyst for putting everything together and leaving no one behind. Like she said, at the community level, there are lots of people who are affected, and they need that support, and resources is very key, the political will is very key, and also giving it a priority is very key. That's why the Kigali Declaration, for me, is a very important issue, and when I listen to the conversations among experts, the first thing I say is your country part of the Kigali Declaration. If not, what can we do? We should start working with the Ministries of Health and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to orientate our presidents, to remind them of the commitments that they have committed in 2022 to ensure that the Kigali Declaration was in place, and that has to be signed to show political will. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Toure. I'd like to come to you, Dr. Makanga, as the Executive Director of Global Health EDCTP 3. And you made mention of innovation. Now, one thing that goes with innovation is risk. And from where you sit, putting money on the table, asking researchers to apply, as a researcher myself, how would you advise we go about taking those risks into researching into new products, whether it be drugs, vaccines, diagnostics, even if it's not clear whether or not they'll be successful? Because what we always want is we brought a product to the table. But this doesn't work all the time, and innovation has risks. So how, from your perspective, are you helping to balance innovation and allow for risk and hopefully new exciting products that could come from the research that EDCTP 3 is funding?
Thank you very much. Well, in this case, it's understandable that investments involve risk. But here is where we need to make use of science to solve the major unmet needs. And minimizing risk requires you to engage partners that have complementary skill sets. And this is where it has been very, very instrumental to bring together academic institutions with industry partners that have quite an expertise when it comes to risk management. And this kind of interactions and partnership helps quite a bit. And the other is, of course, thinking long term and making sure that there is room for course correction should things go wrong, and being able to minimize that risk. But above all, to ensure that the research that is done is scientifically sound and is ethical. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Makanga. And Kasha, I think I should ask you the same question, but just if you can comment very briefly on this aspect of innovation and risk and how you see it, given that you're from the DG Research and Innovation at the EC.
Risk, the issue of maybe lack of risk-taking or risk appetite is something that I think also in Europe we need to do better. Yes. And the acceptance of the fact that biomedical research, there is a huge risk inherent in biomedical research, right? It's different to other forms of research and investment, that failure is also a success. Perhaps looking at different ways of incentivizing research, biomedical research. Many people, many scientists, of course, go into research to publish influential publications, but we should also look another metric, at the metric of getting the product that works. And to get that product, there will be many failures. And as I said, it should not be, many things that don't work out, and they should not be seen as failures, but really as successes in the way, in the process to get the final drug that works.
Thank you very much. So fellow researchers, failure is allowed. That's the message. Anyway, time is up, but I just want to invite one burning question from the audience. Oh, I saw the hand shoot up, so it's yours. Can you kindly take the mic to the gentleman in the gray kaftan? He'll have the honor of the only
Thank
question.
you very much, sir. It looks like the lucky one. So I'm Mohamed Afolabi, London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. I am involved in malaria and NTD research. I just want to ask the question to the panelists, please. Are you considering integration along with collaboration towards sustainable elimination of NTDs? Integration in terms of looking beyond only the NTDs, looking beyond NTDs to leverage platform so that we can have innovation that is being mentioned by Dr. John Amuasi, so that we can replicate the kind of fixed dose combination of albendazole and ivermectin. Can we replicate that beyond NTDs? Can we look beyond NTD? Because when we go into the field, we see the children being affected by more than NTDs. They are co-infected with malaria and NTDs. Can we leverage, integrate, and break the silos? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And I'll turn to you, Professor Kariuki, for this one. I think that's straight at you.
Indeed, very, very pertinent issue that our colleague has brought up here. And yes, indeed, that is the goal, as you call it, for both WHO, Africa CDC, Africa Union, that we must integrate NTDs into the routine primary health care. And if we do that, then it means we'll be able to utilize the same resources that we are utilizing at that primary health care level for other diseases as we tackle our NTDs as well. As you rightly mentioned, if you go to the communities, probably you'll find not just NTDs, you'll find soil-transmitted helminths, you'll find acute pneumonias, you'll find a lot of other diseases, malaria included. Therefore, as we train our healthcare promoters that work in the communities, we must then have a package for them that includes everything that that community suffers from, including NTDs. And I agree with you. Even as we also foster sustainable solutions, including training, even at higher level, let's not do what we call vertical approaches, where we only have funding for TB or malaria or HIV and think that that's the way to go, because that is not the best use of resources. It's the integration you mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard the importance of innovative research in driving elimination of NTDs, the critical role that national leadership and ownership has to play from endemic countries, the power of the Kigali Declaration and how we can leverage this to do more advocacy so that we will turn the commitments into actual action, the key role that the EDCTP continues to play in forging and supporting African-led solutions. We also heard directly from the front line the realities in addressing NTDs and providing treatments to those who need them the most. A round of applause to all our speakers. Thank you very much for shedding light on these critical issues. I once more want to call for us to all support continued investment, continue the partnerships and the innovation towards ending NTDs. NTD elimination is not a dream, it is possible, and it is happening. Let us build on today's momentum and commit to unite, act, and eliminate NTDs together. Thank you, and a round of applause to everyone for joining. Thank you. To those of you online, thank you also for joining us.
Tropical diseases, NTDs, are a diverse group of more than 20 conditions and diseases that are mainly prevalent in tropical areas, where they mostly affect impoverished communities and disproportionately affect women and children.
Ces maladies ont des conséquences sanitaires, sociales et économiques dévastatrices pour plus d'1 milliard de personnes. Unissons-nous, agissons et éliminons les maladies tropicales négligées.
Kila mtu panique, la rage, nos mains. Investissons, ouvrons les balles, ouvrons les balles.
Hello, hello, good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I think after that successful session on NTDs, we would like to move to the next equally important session that will be look at the role of intellectual property and technology transfer. So you're more than welcome to stay in as we